Hugh Hewitt, joined by Bret Baier, who is, of course, the host of Fox News Special Report every night at 6 p.m. Good morning, Bret. Are you shoveled out yet, or are you out of D.C. in time to avoid the snow?
No, I'm here in D.C. I'm shoveled out. We've been back and forth to the studio, and I'll be heading back up there shortly. But not bad, not horrible, but it definitely got some snow.
There have been years in D.C. that everything shuts down for a week at a time. So if you're back at work the next day, it's not that bad of a snow. Bret, I want to go back to when you drove up to D.C. in 2001 to begin covering the Pentagon on 9/11 for Fox. At the time, a man named Gordon England was the Secretary of the Navy. He went on to become the DepSec at Homeland Security, the DepSec at Defense. Did you ever have any dealings with Secretary England when he was running the Navy?
I did, yeah.
Do you think that is the model that Phelan is? Because John Phelan, the former and future president, was talking up John Phelan to me yesterday. I'm looking forward to talking to him, but he's not a veteran. He's a businessman. What do you think of that choice?
Yeah, I know him, and I know him to be a tough business guy that has said he's really committed to taking the screws to the Navy budget and to make sure that the president gets what he wants as far as shipbuilding. And, you know, as you guys talked about yesterday, and I thought that discussion, you know, while the Dreamers section of your interview got a lot of attention, I thought that the discussion about building ships and how to do it and the fact that we don't have the capacity and figuring that out is really a big thing when it comes to the Pentagon and national security. John Phelan's going to be somebody, I think, that is committed to that. Is a unique choice in being a business person, not a veteran, but it is somebody who has a lot of ties to the military community and who is really well respected in the business community.
This is why you ask questions. I had no idea that Bret knew John Phelan. I've not met him. Tell us a little bit about him, because to an extent I don't think Americans appreciate our freedom depends upon our Navy. We are a sea power, and we've allowed it to just slowly decline, and we need a layman. Has John Phelan got that kind of ability?
Yeah, he's a tough guy. He worked with Michael Dell. He's done like big contracts. He's dealt with big companies. He's not afraid to challenge the status quo, and I think he's convinced and talked with, from everything I can see, President Trump about his vision about shipbuilding, about how the Navy should run. So, listen, what you have to have is people that are willing to make tough choices. Business people are uniquely positioned in having dealt with big companies and big decisions to be able to do that. Of course, you know, there are battles back and forth with the military inside, saying you need to have this sense about how people are dealing with the day-to-day and sailors. That's all part of it, and I think that it's going to be an interesting choice. I think there are a number of choices. The Army Secretary as well is of the business mind set to try to put these organizations on track.
Now, what's interesting, a collision is coming. Roger Wicker is chairman of Senate Armed Services. He's a navalist because Mississippi builds ship, and he wants to build a lot of ships. I'm not so sure about House Armed Services or whether or not Mike Waltz is going over to the White House as his Green Beret is going to have his prejudices. Do you think we will break from the basically one-third model for Navy, Army, Air Force and get more towards a 40-45% of the Navy, Bret? Because that's actually where we need to be.
Yeah, I do. I actually do. And I think that the threat from China and all that they're putting into their naval assets across the board, deep blue water and other ships, I think is a legitimate threat that comes up every time we go through the assessment about the world threats. So I think that the Trump people incoming understand that, and that's one of their goals.
You know, Trump also mentioned buying warships from allies, something we're prohibited from doing by law, which I wish we would do, because South Korea and Japan have just got a lot more capacity than we do. Do you expect that to actually happen? Because organized labor will not like that at all.
Well, you can't talk about the Jones Act without running into a wall. And so,
by the way, you win, Hugh at bingo. No one knows the Jones Act except Bret Baier. Okay.
There you go. I mean, it's basically, in layman's terms, fought by every union because of union workers, American workers wouldn't be on building those ships. There's going to be some collision on that. I don't know when it's going to come or if it's going to come, but there will be some battle back and forth about how that goes forward.
Now, I may be inventing a false memory here, Bret, but I think you covered on Special Report at some point the fact that we have a critical shortage in craftsmen of the sort that you need to build ships, welders, electricians, all those sorts. Did you cover that at some point? I thought so. So how would we go about, anyone come up with ideas about how to go about addressing that problem?
Well, I mean, there's a long-term, effort to redirect people, maybe kids that don't want to go to college, that go into different efforts, but that's years in the making. And trades, there's all kinds of efforts about to get trade schools up and going around the country. But that takes a while, and it's not in the process as of yet. Some places are doing it, but not many. I think that there's a real, there's going to have to be a system-wide change for us to do what they want to do. And without doing that, you got to figure out a way to have other people build them or have the ability to buy them someplace else.
There are some very serious Democrats on this. Angus King, independent, but he caucuses with the Democrat. Jack Reed. There are some serious navalists out there. Do you think they'll help Trump if he's serious about this, or will they be shamed into silence?
I do. I mean, I had Mark Kelly and Mike Waltz on my show for Common Ground talking about this very thing. And, they know that there has to be a big change when it comes to that production.
Oh, I hope it makes it into the one big beautiful bill. Two quick questions. Do you think we're going to get one
By
big
the way,
beautiful?
Hold on. Let me ask you a question. Didn't you see some wiggle room in his answer to you on the one big beautiful bill?
Oh yes, there was more wiggle room than a rumble line.
Yeah, I mean it was a Lincoln Tunnel worth of.
He does without congestion pricing. He doesn't want to commit. He just wants to get along with everyone. This is so different from Trump 1, isn't it? He likes Thune. He doesn't want to get in a fight with Thune.
Right, and I think, they want him to say this is definitive, but there's still this battle, and I think we're still going to see it play out as they make the arguments. Mark Dixon made the argument for 3 bills, 2 this year and 1 next year.
There was so much. I'm glad you heard that. I didn't follow up on it because it would have been, you get 30 minutes. If you go off on a tangent, you're never coming back. We could have ended up in the Canadian forest if I wasn't careful.
Right.
We were almost off to the Yukon. Bret Baier, I want to tell you about Juan Merchan. Does anyone, when the cameras are off, any Democrat admit to you they're embarrassed by this? He's a rogue judge. And this is a rogue move to try and sentence Trump this week.
I think there are a lot of Democrats that privately are very upset that that's moving forward the way it is. I've talked to a few who say why. It's done. I think the appeal is pretty strong as it is. But what it does do is it wraps that up and starts that appeal process in New York. Mark Levin and others have said, they should short-circuit everything, go to the Supreme Court. I think, I had Jonathan Turley on last night who said, and he sat in that courtroom and really believes that there's numerous ways to appeal this by the way that it was handled.
Yeah, I think the good professor is right. I just think he set the sentencing so that there's not enough time to get over to the New York Appellate Court and have turned down there to get over to a federal court to enjoin sentencing because they want to embarrass Trump. I mean, does that make political sense to you? Just embarrass Trump again? It doesn't really make any sense to me.
Well, no. And from a politics standpoint, if you do the analysis on the 2024 election, I think you will find that the lawfare and how it was stacked up like planes coming into Dulles on Donald Trump really turned people, even independents, who suddenly said, wait a second, this is wrong. This feels wrong. And I do think that that they started to believe fully that Donald Trump was, getting the short end of the stick from a very aggressive DOJ and special counsel and New York authorities. So it actually helped him. So in politics, I think it goes the exact opposite way.
I'll be watching on Special Report tonight.